Hey, what's up, guys? On this episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, well, we cover a boatload of questions. I'm not even going to try to tell you what they are now. But if you want to know ahead of time, look down in the description. We've got timestamps in the show notes. Let's get this thing rolling. Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill and S2H. I'm Scott McNally. Our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You could use our code ADVICES for some additional savings. Guys, if you are watching this on the YouTube page, you can also listen to us on audio. We're available over at ADVICESradio.com or search Advices Radio on your favorite podcast app. I've got all that down in the show notes. What else should I say? I don't know. I think that was all. If you haven't subscribed, consider it. We've got a bunch of shows coming out each week, including a new one with Lee Priest. So that'll be coming out very soon.
No,
what's up, guys?
Really?
Yeah, we got Lee. He's starting back up.
I might listen to that one.
Yes, because you don't listen to any of the other ones.
No, I'll listen to Lee Priest. He cracks me up, dude. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever heard.
Yeah, he's
I like Australians in general. I've always got along with Australians well. So
yeah,
I think in general they're pretty good people.
Well,
he's pretty blunt. Pretty blunt guy.
Yeah, I think you know where you stand with Lee. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Before we get started with our questions, I had a question. I asked Scott before we started. Skip, I wanted your wisdom. So this is me being selfish. I have a question of my own. This is in part quarantine speaking, but in part, I'm kind of thinking of something I would like to do anyway. What do you think of me getting a set of dumbbells? Like legit pro style, maybe start it. I have dumbbells that go up to 35 pounds right now. I can make dumbbells, like put the things together and all that. And I could do up to about 100 pounds, but they're kind of sketchy. But what do you think about, average price getting a set of like I said, 35, 40 pounds to we'll say 100, 110 pounds. Pros and cons.
You're asking me how much they are?
No. What do you think about the idea? Should I do that, or should I just?
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Why?
I'll tell you why. It'll get you through now. How old are you? What? Now you're frozen.
You froze on us for a minute.
You froze on us.
I'm 43 now.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, 43. How long you been training?
6 months.
6 months exactly.
15 years. 15 years consistently, and I grew up training too. So, but yeah, right. 15 years consistently. I'm going to keep doing it.
Now, in that 15 years, now obviously you're going to continue to train, but in that 15 years, really, how many times have you needed to train at home? This is really probably the only time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it won't happen again, but what's really going to happen here, I'm not going to tell you not to. It's certainly not a bad idea to be prepared. What's going to happen though is all these people are buying all this equipment, and I get it. I understand. Yeah. They're going to make do, and they're going to get the equipment they can. But when this is all said and done, everyone's going to have all this equipment that's going to do nothing but get in the way for the large majority of people. I know some will say, "Well, I could train arms." We're not going to do that. The large majority of us go to the gym. We have our routines. We have the places where we go and train. We're not going to be killing it at that point in our garage or in our basement. I don't think. Some will, but I think it's going to be the very, very small minority. So there's going to be I'll tell you what, if you're going to buy equipment, wait 3 months because you're going to get equipment, cardio machines, benches, squat racks, everything.
You're probably right.
Pennies on the dollar in 3 months. And I really do. I think in the end, it'll get you through now, but so will resistance bands and things that won't take up a lot of space, won't cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they just
I was coming up with reasons like, I always have people that want to train with me, like pay to train with me, and I don't do that. And I mean, I've got enough good connections. Shout out to Mike Toller at WestFit. He'd have me out to train people if I wanted to. But, if I had a set of dumbbells, I have everything I would need to be able to train every body part and train it hard as fuck. So I'm thinking to myself, man, I could train from home. I could get rid of one of my gym memberships and, instead of going up for chest day, I could stay here. My gym's I'm looking at it as we speak. It's out right outside of my office here. I could save that time, and if here's the thing I was looking at too. If I bought a set of like power blocks that went up to like 90, then it would not keep me home after this is over with. You know what I mean? Now, if I could get, say, dumbbells up to 125, then I could do everything I needed to here. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I don't know. I'm on the fence with it. I kind of want to do it and then kind of use that as a way to kind of create, Oscar Arden, he has his own gym in his basement. And it's like a fucking torture chamber. He takes people over there. They come in the basement. They've had the cops called on them because they hear so much screaming. They think that there's like a domestic dispute going on. But, he's just it's a torture chamber down there. And I would love to be able to bring clients over, competitors and stuff. I have enough mirrors that I could set up a really nice setup. And, I already have a good pull down. I have a squat stand that would just kind of top it all off. But that's me. Like trying to find a reason to buy it when in reality, I know you're right. That's the problem.
Some people it may work out. Maybe it would work out well for you. I mean, you know your situation better than I do. I just think the large majority of people, I'll even play the other side for a second.
Okay.
And this is going to sound really dickish, but I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
If I was a competitor and you were training me and you asked me to come over to your house and train, I would be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, meet me at the gym. Why would I do that? It would seem to be still very limiting in the atmosphere for me. And I understand I've been doing this for a long time and I'm very picky and that type of shit. I was laughing thinking, God, if I ever put together a gym that would satisfy me, it would be a pole barn the size of, it would just be great. And then I'm thinking to myself, what a waste of money that would be because I could just do it as a commercial gym.
Yeah.
Gym I want to, and then charge people and all the fucking members would pay for all my fucking equipment.
Yeah.
So, look, like I said, your situation better than anybody. I just think that a lot of people, they want to get through right now and they want to train as hard as they can and they want as many options as they can. But I don't see this go, and I understand that everybody's got an opinion. I'm totally cool with that. But this isn't gonna go on for a long time. The gyms are gonna the restrictions will be lifted. The gyms will slowly start to open up. I think what's gonna happen, without getting into this too much, but I think the restrictions are gonna continue to lie more in the hardest hit places, whether it be Detroit or right now Michigan. You guys have the highest percentage of deaths mathematically, even over New York and New Jersey, even though they have more deaths and that sort of thing. I think
there's a guy from my high school that died this week. He died, and then I talked to a friend of mine. He was in my grade, my class, and then I found out his parents died last week from it, both of them. So I know that Michigan is kind of getting hit harder. I'm looking beyond that though, like thinking because you know what it is. I've worked with, and I'm sure you've had this moment. I've got one more question for both of you guys. And this is a good one that I'm really interested in hearing. I'll ask you the question, then I'll explain what I mean. Tell me one of your aha moments where the light bulb turned on in your training. I've had moments where thought I understood what intensity was, and then I met someone else who showed me that I could take it to another level in some way or another. I've mentioned on the podcast before a lot, Shelby was one of those people. Training with him pushed me to a new level. But, there's been several people in my life where I've had those like aha moments where a light bulb turns on. I know that with a lot of my competitors, some of the guys are newer, and by having an opportunity to train with me, even if it's only once in a while, I've seen light bulbs turn on. And that's kind of what I'm not thinking more or less to be like a full-time personal trainer, but to have people over and I know I could turn on some light bulbs. Sure, I could do that at the gym with them too. So there is that. But to kind of segue then, when was a time that a light bulb clicked on for you? Who were you training with and what did you learn from that? Either you guys are welcome to take this one.
Scott, take it first and pretend you have a light bulb in your head.
I'm going to say probably pretty late into lifting. I was training with some guys at a gym that were like strongman competitors, but they were pretty high level ones. And one of the things, a couple of them were training for. A couple of the guys were like world class level bench pressers, and some of the training that they did for bench press meets was like, wow, I never thought about that. there was a lot of speed moves, like let's say T-bar, like cable extensions, tricep extensions, like really fast, for like really, really high reps was part of their training regime. And a lot of that kind of stuff, I was like, wow, I never realized, even though I powerlifted and I was around some good powerlifters, no one ever really did that kind of stuff. But these guys were, a couple of them were, one of them was actually a world champion. Like had the top, he was a shirted lifter, but he had the top lift in the world. As a matter of fact, he might still have it, like 1,100 pounds. But he could bench press 600 for reps raw. And they would do all these like really quick, I'd call them like not even the best form. Like take a T-bar and just with a cable and just whip it down real fast with like on a 90-pound plate for like 50, 60, 70 reps.
Yeah.
And that was part of the training. Also would be like T-bar rows on a T-bar, but not very much weight, like one plate.
Okay.
Which is pretty freaking light. That's like a warm-up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of them would use 2, but it would be like super, super high reps. And they had they called it was speed work. So there was 2 days a week they would do speed work. One of it was a really high rep speed work. The other one was kind of a middle of the road. But when you think about powerlifters, you're not thinking about some dude doing 60 reps with a T-bar.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
And that was part of the training. But these dudes were strong as shit. I mean, it was like, okay, well, somebody, I was like, I would have never thought of this. And it actually worked. Another thing was used a lot of slingshots. You know what a slingshot is?
Yeah. Mark Bell's thing?
Huh?
Mark Bell's invention?
Yeah, slingshot. So right here, it's kind of like it's not like a shirt, but it brings you. And one thing I learned from that was a huge aha moment the first time I used a slingshot, because I didn't realize a slingshot put all the weight in your pecs. So, I mean, your pecs were like, just like gorged with blood. I mean, there was no tricep pump hardly, nothing else. It's purely right in your chest. And I started getting guys that had probably not the best chest development, but they wanted to bodybuild, to use slingshots, and it actually worked pretty good.
No kidding.
You got to be careful with slingshot, though, because when you lift a slingshot off, the weight wants to move towards your waist. Mm-hmm. And when you first start using them, it feels really odd. I mean, it feels like the bar is going to go right down and land in your lap. And when you're flat benching, so it's good to have it's definitely good to have a spotter with a slingshot. I'd say with a slingshot, I'll give you an example. Let's say someone could raw press 315 for 2 or 3 reps. Let's just say. Yeah. I'm just giving you a hypothetical. With a slingshot, they could probably get 9, 10, 11, 12 reps. But it's basically got all the weight pushed right into your pecs. And especially if you have like problems in the upper center part of your chest, development up here, I'll tell you, slingshots actually work pretty well. But another part, one of the guys we talked about was you don't fall in love with them. Because a lot of people will say, oh man, I'm getting these great pumps, and they'll just fall in love with them. And, it doesn't incorporate, for a powerlifter, doesn't incorporate anything else in that lift. Yeah. It's mainly used to help to help the middle part of that press, where you kind of get stuck, people that get stuck like in the middle coming up. And, which I never had a problem with that. So actually the slingshot for me was like, oh, I'm fucking lifting a ton more weight than I normally would. And so you can get kind of ego driven by it and maybe fall in love with it. Like anything with lifting, when you're really good at a lift, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that a lot. Yeah. That's probably not the best approach overall, So that was some things I learned. That was kind of like pretty aha, I would guess. Yeah.
It sounds like it. So you started doing that yourself, huh? Those high reps and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't doing any kind of competitive lifting at the time, but I liked the idea, so I kind of ran with it. And I was trained with one of the other guys that competed in powerlifting. Me and him would work out together, so we would do it together. And my lifts went up quite a bit. I'd say I wasn't benching at the time as much as I had before in the past, but I was quite a bit older than I was when I was competing at that. So, I was legitimately putting up, I could press 4 wheels a couple of reps, at like 210 pounds or whatever I was. It's a pretty good lift for that weight. At the time, I was probably like in my early 40s.
Okay. So like you said, later then.
I'll tell you another thing about the slingshot too, though. You got to be careful when you get away from it, because you can get some shoulder injuries because you're supporting everything else is being supported. So you have to be careful that you're not thinking you're Superman when you take it off, and go to either a raw press or any kind of heavier lift in the chest or front deltoid area.
How about you, Skip?
Yeah, I've got 3. I'll be real quick.
All right.
I'll go in descending order, with the third one being the least impactful and the first one being the most impactful. Number 3, I call it the green room, and that is the heaviest weight has always, for me, and I don't know if other people have had this happen or if it's just a me thing or what, but heavy weights to me, even though I may be able to get the reps, they feel like they're not all over the place, but they feel, they don't feel fluid.
Yeah.
To me, the green room is when you have a set and you have a weight that you nail perfectly. It might not be the heaviest weight that you can use, but it's the heaviest weight you can use where it's fluid.
Yeah.
And you've got total control over the weight. You're using it instead of, or as opposed to just moving it.
Yeah.
And I know that may seem a little, that's a little odd, Skip, but that is something that I thought, oh shit, that like, okay, cool. This is really what I need to be shooting for. Number 2, gear. Because, and I'm just being honest, gear was just like, oh my God, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like the recovery, all the response, everything else. That's an obvious no-brainer. And Scott S2H will roll his eyes on this one, but seriously, the biggest aha for me in 35 years of training and dealing with nutrition and everything else was skip loading.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just was. Just the way that it worked, the benefits. First, like I said, it always started off as a peaking protocol before it was, when I pushed it into dieting and how it would help with progression for dieting, it was just like, oh my God, like this can't, like, okay, I'm gonna do this again because this worked. Oh shit, it fucking worked again. And that's really how it started. That was probably my biggest aha. I'm sure there are others. It's funny because while SOH was talking, I was thinking, I'm like, what else? But I mean, I've been training and doing this shit for so long. I'm sure there's more, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Who taught you about
gear too, though?
Yeah.
There was, or whatever you want to label under that umbrella. There was certain things along the way. It was like, I mean, when I figured out like that IGF-1 protocol on my own, I was just kind of like dumbing around with it, just dicking around, trying different things. And all of a sudden something just took hold of it and it was like, oh shit, this stuff actually, when you actually like play around with something and it actually works,
yeah,
it's like, wow, this is fucking work. And then you're like, is this placebo or am I really thinking it's working? You know what I mean? And then you're like, people are like, damn dude, you're looking like way more vascular. You're like, well, I guess this shit is working. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And I think too, S2H, you probably let me know if you feel the same way, but it's also that aha, like, I think I just found something that a lot of people don't have a clue about. And I think that's kind of like, oh shit, this can be put out there. Like people are going to love this. Like, oh shit. So whether it be IGF or, a nutrition protocol or whatever, those things, I think those things stand out to me as more aha-ish, but my light bulb may also be only 5 watt. So I think light bulbs are relative depending on the person.
It was, I want to say it was David Smith who said the longer that you've trained, it's almost like, and I'll add in, the more aha moments you have, the more you realize like how little you know. It's like the more like I feel like guys that are newer and younger are really quick to boast how smart they are versus the people I know who hold real intelligence. They're humble about it, but they're not humble about it just because that's the thing to do. Like it's cool to be humble. Like John Meadows, he's not like just being humble because it's cool to be humble. It's because then the more you learn, the more you start realizing how much there is to learn. You know what I mean? And if you can have an aha moment like Scott did at 40, or like I have at various points when I already thought I already knew a lot of shit, you have these thoughts, these ideas that come to you, be it through something you've read, something you figured out on your own, or like I was bringing up here, things that you found through other people. Those moments really show you just how much more that there is to learn. Mm-hmm. I don't care how smart you are.
And I think too, you can. I'm probably not the most open-minded person sometimes in certain things in life, but when it came to like lifting and all this stuff, I kind of would always like watch other people or take in like, it's kind of like, okay, if someone's lifting a lot of weight or doing something really well or their physique's really good, it's like, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's just genetics. But a lot of times they figured some stuff out you hadn't figured out. So sometimes you can really look at other people and get good ideas and maybe take that idea and make it your own so it works for you,
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we do have a bunch of questions. I'll pull these up here. And I know we had a couple questions on YouTube as well, so I'll get to those. Let's see here. To start us out, this is from Matt. He says, I have a client getting ready for a photo shoot, and I'm trying really hard to keep his waist small. He has a history of powerlifting, and it has made his core and obliques thicker. What sorts of foods can I feed him that will keep his digestion healthy? I'm already using chicken and cream of rice as a carb source. Or do you have any other tips?
Well, I would tell him not to train his midsection, because a lot of times when you're coming into a photo shoot, guys want to really, really pound their midsection, training wise. I did the training for a yearly photo calendar for a large fire department in a couple of years in a row, and I don't know how the hell it happened. Like, the people running the photo shoot contacted me because a couple of the guys that, like, the year ahead of time, they like apply and go out and they look at them and they put them on the calendar.
Yeah.
And then it's like 3 months out from the calendar shoot, and like they call them back in. Half of them been drinking beer and eating hot dogs all year or whatever,
Yeah.
And a couple of them had some really big waists, and their waist had expanded, and they're like, you can fix them, right? And I'm like, yeah, for enough money I can fix them. But a lot of cardio. I put them on a lot of cardio.
Okay.
And I had to get them away from the biceps, the chest, buys, and back mentality, and put them into more of I don't want to say CrossFit, but more of a functional training routine.
Yeah.
And you'll find too with people, especially powerlifters, tend not to drink a lot of water. I never did. I don't know why that is, or people that powerlifted. So I took their water to like a whole nother level.
Huh.
They were all taking their sodium back out completely, because they were thinking, they were thinking from the standpoint of, I gotta take this water weight and fat off my waistline or bring it in. And so, sometimes you just gotta, I found if I functionally trained them a lot more, like I had them going running up and down stairs at the stadium, at the football stadium and stuff like that.
Yeah. That
they slimmed out. If you think back to when you were like a kid, or maybe an early teen 20s, if I think back to when my waist was the thinnest, and even when I was powerlifting some, is when I was doing a ton of cardio. A lot of it was involuntarily because the Army wanted us to do a lot of cardio. But the stair running, all that, just sweating it out. Sprints, run walks, I call them. Sprint the straightaway, walk the corner on the track. A lot of track work. It worked.
All right, I'm just real quick. I'm gonna text Matt's client and tell him, just save your money. Don't pay Matt. Just listen to the podcast. Because your trainer is asking us questions about send. No,
Matt's watching right now too.
I know. I'm giving him some shit. That's all. Powerlifting background, right?
Yep.
Yeah, got to get I don't know how much time he has before the photo shoot.
Yeah, that's another factor. Let us know, Matt, if you let us know what kind of time frame he's looking at. If you can get to us before we finish answering.
Yeah, because it depends on the time frame. And if it just started, and let's just say the photo shoot is in 12 weeks,
yeah,
I would be dumping the heavy compound movements that are going to contribute to, helping to keep that midsection thicker, which is going to be difficult for a power lifter who over many years has built that muscularity through their midsection, with deads and thicker obliques and things like that. And I don't, the leaner you get, the smaller your waist will get, the smaller your meals will get. That also helps to keep the midsection down. It's tough because someone who is big typically does have to have larger volumes of food than someone who is smaller. So that helps. I think that the food volume is important because I think that helps to keep distension in people who naturally are more distended, and older people tend to be more distended than younger people. I understand what S2H is saying
It's
when
got
you're young,
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
I I don't want
Track
to
work.
starve. I don't want to say starve the guy, but the volume of food really does matter because that distension will come down. Like as an example, it wouldn't be a good idea to continue large skip loads for someone who is big and has a thicker midsection. You have to be very careful with that. And prior to the photo shoot, even if you have to give up a little bit of condition or a little bit of fullness to keep the distension down, I know myself. I'll use myself as an example. I do lose a little bit of fullness the morning of a show because I will not eat before I go on stage. If I eat anything at all, it's just a couple bites of something because the way my structure is set up, the older I get, I can't afford to have any distension. It even a little bit takes away from my overall look.
Yeah.
So it's a fair trade. So in a situation like that with someone who is going to tend to be more distended or have that thicker midsection prior to the photo shoot, you're going to have to keep food volume and probably fluid down very, very low to just help keep the midsection as small and tight as possible.
Yeah.
Also, with a photo shoot, you're going to get more preferable appearance. So you're going to be able to be put in positions where your physique looks better.
True.
It's not like a bodybuilding show where you're like
going to be exposed.
I need the judges call out poses and you have to get in those poses.
Yeah.
Photo shoots you can take a physique that in person may not look the best or what you exactly want, and through photos and through the positioning of the body and through photoshopping, whatever they do to the pictures, they can make someone who looks pretty good look a lot better.
Yeah.
But that's keep that in mind too.
Well, and muscular control, when it comes to posing is huge. A lot of people think they can pose, and they're not very good at it. There are things where if you work with a top level posing guy, you'd be surprised at the amount of control that you can have over your midsection, especially when it's, again, like S2H was saying, it's not a bodybuilding show. It's not like you're being judged for every transition and everything else. You'll be judged basically on that 1 second snapshot. Yeah. So muscular control and getting the posing in the control of the midsection, getting it under control during those photos is going to be a pretty big deal as well.
I would say one thing I can think of to add would be, because he was saying like specific foods. He said chicken and rice chicken and cream of rice as a carb source. He says, I'm already using chicken and cream of rice as a carb source. I would think, we always say it depends, it's individual. And that's a phrase I learned from listening to you guys talk on PED radio. I learned that phrase, it depends, because it does, right? But let's look at, I think of like some foods that make my stomach bloat up more, right? And those foods may be different than foods for you. Like I work with some people, they can eat red skin potato all day. And then I work with another guy and he gets gassy and he gets bloated from eating potatoes nonstop. So you got the time. You obviously have been working with him before this too. You really start getting anal with what food sources inflame you versus what food sources create less inflammation, So if chicken digests perfectly, you're starving, an hour later, your stomach's feeling, if your stomach's feeling tighter and you're not feeling bloated, then that's probably a good thing. If you eat anything or drink anything, if you're drinking soda and it makes you feel like you're all getting bloated out, then logic tells me to stay away from that stuff. So I think that there's not any specific trick on like what foods you should be using as much as it's going to be a super individual thing, that if you can find the foods that, like somebody might do well. And I think it is with the potatoes. Sometimes it's too much fiber is what it comes down to for people, where somebody else
fiber
is too
huge.
little. Yeah.
Fiber is huge. And that's why a lot of people who have distension issues, I know myself, and I got this from my physique and my distension, I don't eat a lot of vegetables. I damn sure I'm not going to eat a lot of fibrous vegetables. I'm just not going to do that. They bloat the shit out of me. They make me, and some people that may be great because it'll satiate them. It'll help them to feel full.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want my stomach to be as small as I can have it. So I tend to cut vegetables, or at least the fibrous vegetables
that would fill you, expand, right?
Absolutely. The other thing is limit water intake. You still want water intake, but don't have someone drink a liter of water with their meal. Have the bigger water intake come in between meals, and only have enough water with the meal that you need to drink something while you're eating that meal. Because again, you're adding volume, and look, the best way to explain it is it's like a fucking rubber band. If you keep it stretched, you're constantly stretching it, just like you would with your midsection when you eat. Every time you eat a meal, the less that you stretch it out, it's going to stay tighter. I know over time, as my midsection gets smaller, a skip load is going to be a bitch. I can't put down as much food because my stomach itself, my midsection is smaller.
Yeah.
So
where someone else,
individual, though.
And then somebody else, they might need more fiber to push the food out. So, I know for myself, I can think of, like, if I eat fish leaves me so hungry, and it makes my stomach feel like, and I know too, fish is a very low inflammatory food. So something like that for me is going to work a lot better than, say, eating a steak, as far as being able to process it and get it out of my system. Just thinking off the top of my head, that's kind of the things that work for me. I know I had a couple other questions that were not on our regular format. I'm going to try to dig those up while we get to this next one. This is from Nate, our good friend Nate Pennington.
Hey.
He says,
should I get more tattoos?
Should I get more tattoos? And should I start another band? Who else?
He's like already playing in the band. He's his own band.
He's his own band. He doesn't even need, Okay, starting to read more about proper estradiol range being subjective to one's total test range, as in a ratio rather than just an arbitrary 20 to 50 or whatever. Any merit to this? If so, what do you feel is a good ratio? And is it advisable to take an AI based off an out of range number on your blood work if you're asymptomatic? Kind of treating the symptoms versus treating a number thing. Did I read that well enough that you guys can understand me?
It makes sense. I mean, I see what he's asking. He's asking more about whether and it does matter whether you're having sides and whether you're estrogen sensitive, that sort of thing. I don't know. I can't rattle off a ratio. Can you, Scott?
Well, I mean, the main thing is when you get, and I think I've had this conversation with him before. One thing is when you get labs done, most of the time they don't do free testosterone. So if you don't have free testosterone number in there, you can take your total test and then look at your estradiol number and go, okay, I've got a little like semi unspecific little general way I'll say.
Are you kicking your microphone? I mean, is it what?
Oh, maybe I was.
It just sounds like you're doing this.
Well, are you done?
Skip just broke his microphone.
It doesn't work. He just broke his.
I muted it while I was like, what the fuck? Why is it blinking? All right.
So let's say you got a 1,000 mg/dnl total test, and your estradiol is 60. So it's in range, right? That's going to tell you that your free testosterone number is going to be high normal, most likely. Now that's because most of the labs don't give you free testosterone numbers. So if you want to be more specific about it, let's say that you got a estradiol number that's a little bit high, high, a little bit out of range. Say it's squeaking out of range, high range a little bit. Because I don't really get into the range thing too much because I'm too sure where they find these ranges sometimes. But let's say your total test is 1,200 and your estradiol is slightly out of range, but you feel great, you look great, you're not holding water. I mean, but you don't know what your free testosterone number is. I mean, I think you can, whenever you go to a doctor, they're going to go on their little computer, they're going to type in the numbers, and it's going to kick them, whatever does their programming, Merrick, Pfizer, whatever pharmaceutical company they're using. It's going to tell them, hey, for this much testosterone, you need to take this much Arumadex a week, or whatever. It just tells them they don't know more than half the time, 90% of the time, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're using a computer program, an algorithm, to tell them how to prescribe you. So I think you have to take some of that into your own thought process of, hey, okay, so my estrogen's a little bit high, a little bit out of range, just a hair, but my testosterone is really high, and I feel fine. You know, I think you don't have to take, but let's just say this: so you take the Arumadex, how they tell you to prescribe it, and then you feel like shit, and you go back and you're like 15 is your number, you know. Because everybody aromatizes testosterone differently, and with age, you know, obviously as you get older, you're going to aromatize testosterone higher than someone who's younger. But that's a good general outline. But I would say in the case of some people, I think he would fall into that. He doesn't aromatize testosterone at a higher rate as someone else possibly his age would. So you got to look at your own personal situation there, and take that into consideration. But,
so you agree that the symptoms are probably more important than the actual range?
It depends on the range. Let's just say you're taking the same. If two people are taking the same amount of tests per week, and they're taking the same amount of Arumadex, and one of them has a 1,200 total test, the other one has like a 600. You know, then you're kind of like, okay, well, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Because not everyone's going to react the same even to an exogenous drug. So yeah, you got to look at, I think to a point, you got to look at where am I at, how do I feel, and what am I being advised to do, and how does that fit into what I'm using with testosterone and an aromatase inhibitor. Because again, as you age more, you generally are going to aromatize testosterone more to estrogen, but not everybody is for the same age. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we're not all the same. The three of us aren't the same. We could sit here and take the exact same things, all three of us, exact same testosterone, same protocol, same Arumadex, same maker, same pharmaceutical companies, and I guarantee you none of our numbers are going to be the same.
Well, and that's why I think that the symptoms are probably, I would put the symptoms in front of the actual number range. I just think that because everybody does respond differently. I mean, if you're crying and you're watching Tiger King, and
I cried when I watched Tiger King. Is that weird? Is that weird?
Estrogen's too high then.
Is that the guy from Oklahoma?
No, he's from Florida.
Oh, is he?
There was one of them's from Florida. I think he's from. Is he from Florida
with
too?
The tigers, like the dude, he's like got earrings on his ears.
Yeah,
that's Tiger
Exotic.
King.
Yeah.
Joe Exotic.
He's from Oklahoma.
I thought he was from Florida.
I know. The lady
Florida.
is. The lady's from Florida. That Karen, is that her name?
I don't know.
The lady with the rescue. She, the lady.
Tell you what, Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin, yeah.
Okay, well, if he's from Oklahoma, then I stand corrected. I thought they were both in Florida.
I thought he was too. I thought he was too, but when he ran for governor,
Florida's got some strange cats in it.
Well, that's and
it's a good pun.
That's what I say. It's kind of
strange
very,
cats.
very well played. Yeah, you're a punny guy.
I saw some memes on that guy like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? So I started Googling it. I'm like, oh, this is weird. I didn't know people were following him. He had YouTube, and then I was like, this guy's odd. He's definitely strange.
If Skip didn't want to be called Skip anymore, we could call him Ken Exotic with all his
Ken
cats.
Exotic.
Listen, I've got a friend, a long time friend from Colorado, and I'm gonna throw him under the bus. Tony Lloyd. And I'm telling you, this motherfucker looks just like Joe Exotic. It's so awesome.
No,
not really. But I mean, there's older pictures of him with one. But it's funny. We have fun on social media, all of my friends, because he looks a lot. He reminds us of it, almost like a doppelganger, I guess. But I'm digressing.
All right. I've got a kind of like semi. I won't even call it off topic because it does relate to bodybuilding. It kind of relates to our first question too, when Scott was saying that you can you can go to a photo shoot and you can hide your weaknesses. You're not going to be exposed in a photograph the way you are when you hit that front relaxed pose, and you look like, if you got a wide waist and you hit a front relaxed, you got a wide waist in front of everyone, This is from listener of the show, Andy. He says, kind of stupid question, but you all seem like you like those.
He's from Oklahoma, by the way.
I already like him.
He's from Nashville, Tennessee. He says,
Joe Exotic.
"Oh, okay. Do you think people tend to look better in person or in pics, physique-wise? I know I see guys in the gym and they look amazing, and then I see them in their contest pics or just other pics, and they don't look nearly as good. Same thing as myself. I'm blowing up and I'm veiny at the gym. Then I take some pics and I'm like, what the fuck?" Just thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people could look. I've seen people in pics that didn't look that great, and see them in person, they look really good. I mean, you got to remember, if you're taking an individual picture compared to like a stage picture where there's competitors up there. Yeah. First, you're up against other people, but a lot of times the lighting at some shows really sucks too. Yep. So it doesn't make people. I'd say in general, especially from like the NPC level shows, the pictures tend to look worse than what you'd see in person, just because of the lighting and the angles and all that, and the distance of the photos and stuff. But yeah, he's got a good point. The guy,
and that works. That works to the benefit, though, of the person getting ready for a show as well, because it's almost like saying take the worst lighting in your house, and use that as for your progress pictures, because when you look good in that, then you're going to be fucking bang on when it's time to step on it. Because I agree with S2H completely. I've been really disappointed, not only with myself. I think everybody has seen stage pictures and went, "Oh, that's not as good as I thought." But when you see other people's pictures, I mean, you even see some pro pictures sometimes that you're just like, wow, I thought he was in better condition. And the reason for that is because as bodybuilders who take a lot of selfies and a lot of pictures, especially now with the technology age, even more so than 15 years ago, but we are really good at finding the absolute best light in our house, in any gym, the sunlight angle, when we're out in the yard, it's pretty. I can tell you right now. I mean, I'm thinking about it in my head. I know exactly where to stand in Titan Gym, my home gym, if I want to have a badass picture taken to show off freaky condition.
Oh, and you're your own worst critic too.
Absolutely, and it's the same thing when it comes to Armbrust Pro Gym. You watch where pictures are taken of Phil Heath or a lot of those pros, they know exactly where it is.
Oh,
It's the front. Well, it used to be the front until they moved a lot of the equipment, with the lighting coming from the side, from the front windows. And now it's moved to the back with the garage door open, with the light coming from the side, from the garage door being open. You'll see, honestly, 7 out of 10 pictures taken at Armbrust Pro of posed pictures will be in that position, if not more. We're all very good at that.
Yeah, and why not, man? I mean, I'm not going to take a picture in some shitty light if I'm going to post it,
Neither am I. I completely agree with you. Let me, I don't want to go off on a tangent here.
Yeah, you do.
But
you do.
It just real quick, because it's still related. But I think what happens too is, I wonder. I know it's happened to me a lot, and other people said the same thing. I have seen people and thought, wow, I've seen pictures, guys, really, and then I see him in person or in clothes, and I'm not as impressed, because I thought, oh shit, I thought he'd be bigger than that, or I thought. And you know what? I'm gonna use this as an example, just because I've been around a lot of top pros for years, especially at Armbrust Pro. I've been around Phil Heath a lot. When Phil has clothes on, it's not like he doesn't look big.
Yeah.
But he looks like a fucking mutant when he takes off his clothes versus when he has them on. You almost expect that he's going to be bigger, like take up much more space standing next to you than he actually does.
Yeah.
And what does that come down to? Honestly, it comes down to the look, the structure, the total package, versus simply taking up space with sheer size. Not that he's not big. He's clearly big. But when you see it, you are going to assume that standing next to him, that it's just going to be as mind-boggling, but it's not.
Yeah. Here's another good example. I think one of the biggest examples or best examples I've seen, Iris Kyle. If you see Iris standing around in a tracksuit, you're like, especially if she's like contest ready, when she has been in the past at least, she looks like just another, like a small woman, you know, she looks.
I don't know the Irish cow that you've seen, because the one I've seen looks huge.
Yeah, you see her with like in a tracksuit. She looks like
I
an
saw her in
average
like
person.
a dress one time. The first time I was like, "Holy
Oh, you
shit,
probably
she's
saw
a
her.
big, very neat dude in here."
She probably had her
She had
shoulders
like
out and
a
everything.
like a straplet, like a
Yeah.
strapless type top on. I was like, "Christ, she's bigger than any guy in this whole place."
But then if you cover her up, if you put a tracksuit on her, she look like I've seen her, you know, a number of times, and she looks smaller. Or I think of like a lot of the 212 guys. You know, they're only 212 pounds, and I mean, granted, you do have some guys that are short and they're just as wide as they are tall. But a lot of them with the really pretty physiques, you know, they aren't even like Brandon Curry, our Mr. Olympia. He's one of those guys. He looks big. You know, and if he's wearing, you know, something that's like, I noticed too, I think he's going to a good tailor now. And I was saying they did this video recently of like, it's a hand washing video. Did you see that, Skip, on YouTube? They do this. It's on Instagram. It's all the pros where they're trying to promote hand washing. And so they like do this thing where they wash their hands and then they throw the bar, and then like Rolly Winkler's standing there and he catches the bar, and they each shoot the video on their own and they linked them all together. But I noticed Brandon Curry, he's got a good tailor. Shout out to Brandon's tailor, because his clothes fit perfect now, man. But anyway, where am I going with this? He's another guy though that like if he's all covered up, he's not like a massive human being like you would expect. I think you're right on with that.
Well, I mean, bodybuilders in general are not very tall. So I mean,
true.
I'll say this: when I've been to some of these shows where they've had the powerlifting events and some of the world-class strongman powerlifters come in for, you know, the events that are with the bodybuilding show. I mean, the biggest bodybuilders on there look like little 150-pound little guys standing next to some of these guys, because they're not, in general, bodybuilders. I mean, only 5'9". They're not really tall, really big men.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part, other than Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in person in his peak, and he's a big dude.
Right.
You know, he walks in the room, you're like, that's a big motherfucker. You know, in clothes, I don't care what he's wearing. He was one of the exceptions, I could say.
I think too, I know I have seen enough big freaky dudes and pros that I know I have thought to myself, instead of thinking, wow, they're huge, the first thing that comes to mind is, damn, he's shorter than I thought he would be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it helps to make someone look that much bigger when they're short.
Yeah.
Aragon is another good example. Santi, you know, he's certainly a great bodybuilder and incredibly muscular, but he's not someone who, when you stand next to him with clothes on, that you would think that, wow, this guy is just taking up so much fucking space. And then he peels down and he looks fucking retarded. And I mean retarded in a good way.
Riley just commented that S2H is sexier than I originally imagined. So maybe you saw some old pictures compared to the pictures now. I'll move on here. Let's see.
A girl or a guy?
Is which do you want it to be?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. As much stuff as Skip said to me over the year, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Travis James, he says, I have another estrogen question. Hypothetically, doing a 20-week prep and you're already showing high estrogen on blood work, should be knocking down estrogen some already. Oh, that's the question. Let's see. Should we be knocking down estrogen some already, or managing the estrogen kickback already this far out, or can we save AIs and just knock it down at the end?
Well,
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, estrogen binds to some of the same receptors as androgens. So if your estrogen's higher, you're binding the receptors that you want your androgen, you know, to bind to. So the old parking spot theory, the parking lot theory. If you're letting the Volkswagens park when you want the Ferraris to park, but there's too many Volkswagens, you got to get rid of them. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying all estrogen's a Volkswagen, but the theory is that you want your receptors to bind to your androgens. And if your estrogen is high, it's going to take up some of those receptors and some of that space. So yeah, you want to manage it to a degree, but not too low.
Right,
So.
not overmanage it. The other thing too that I would add is, if you are, you know, and it depends on what is high, you know, high normal range, and you're losing body fat, you're not having any problem getting leaner, okay. But higher estrogen levels can also get in the way and make it less make the process of utilizing body fat as a fuel source less efficient as well.
Yes.
And that's the big one. So you could wait and see if the process is still going to be efficient, or you could just be proactive and make sure that it's not too high. Here's the thing with too low estrogen. I hate to say, well, I'm just going to be honest. I would rather have lower estrogen and deal with the sexual side effects and know that it's not getting in my way for me getting leaner than I would to go, well, it's probably okay where it is if it tends to be on the higher side. Yes, you can have other sides like achy joints and things like that, but I would rather myself, and I'm not even speaking of a client, I was speaking myself, quite frankly. I would make sure that I had control over it from the start. I think that would make for the most efficient process for getting leaner.
And make sure you're testing at the same time. That's a mistake a lot of people make, is they'll go get labs at 9 in the morning on a Monday, and then say, oh, I'm going to retest a month later, and they'll go on a Wednesday at 4 in the afternoon. And you have to you really want that testing done on a very consistent cycle to how you're cycling, and as today's times, relevant to when you're pinning, relevant when you're taking your AIs, everything. So that's the best way to get an accurate result. And I see people a lot of times who will send like one lab that'll be way different than another one, but they're basically running the same protocol. And then I'll look at the time and the date on the lab and look at my calendar, and they're like, okay, well, the first one they took on Monday morning at 8 a.m. and the second one they took on Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. Well, that's going to show a different result a lot of times. So you want to stay consistent with that time and date.
And let me just add to elaborate on this a little bit, make it clear, because I agree with everything you said. But even like, let's say you're pinning every other day. You also want to make sure that, okay, if you do it on a Monday, let's say you do it, your estrogen, you get your blood work done at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, consistently, let's say every 4 weeks for the sake of this conversation, making this point. If you pinned Sunday or you pinned Saturday on 2 different tests, even though you took the blood work at the same time at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, you're going to get different numbers.
Sure.
So S2H is absolutely right. Not only do you need to be consistent with the days and the times, but you also need to make sure that your pinning is, that your blood work is done in relative to when you pinned, and that you're using the same combination, or not the same combination, but the same compounds. Because if you change your compounds, then that's going to also impact the estrogen as well. And you got to take that into consideration too. If you have a different estrogen number and you're thinking, well, that's weird. Well, if you're running a different compound, or you've switched one for the other, you've changed the dosing milligram, then that's going to play into it too.
Yeah, because then you end up chasing ghosts. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, my estrogen's way up now, so I'm going to up my AI. I'm going to change these compounds. Then you go back and test again. It's all different. I'm going to lower them now. And all you're doing is just chasing a ghost the whole time with being not consistent, as Skip said, with your protocol and with your testing times and days. And it can get people especially people that are really OCD about their numbers. It can get them, they'll be changing shit all over the place. And it's causing you more harm than good.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we got another question here. Oh, and Riley also adds, he says, I sent a few messages through before, and I wanted to say thank you all for answering them. He says, y'all's show make me die laughing. He enjoys the love-hate talk between S2H and Skip. The
love-hate?
Yeah.
It's all staged.
Yeah.
It's all staged.
I hate your fucking cat, though.
I have 5. Which one do you hate?
All of them, all 5.
You know what? I spoke to all 5 of them prior to this podcast, and they said the same shit about you. So there's that.
Okay. Shay says, Shay had another question, too. So Shay was a guy who asked about protein the last episode. We were talking about animal sources of protein versus vegan sources of protein. Fuck, I can't remember what that question was now, but he had another one. I'll look that one up. I'll find that one. But he also asks, when do you know when a meal is considered missed? After how many hours? Or do you just eat 2 meals the next time instead or do you skip the meal?
I call a missed meal is when you miss a meal for that day. So let's say you have 6 meals on your program and you only eat 5, and the next day you wake up and you missed a meal the day before.
Would you add? Now, if you say you do that, you miss a meal. Would you eat 2 meals next time, Scott?
That's a tough question. I mean, it depends what they're doing. If they're cutting, probably not. If they're bulking, I might say let's say they're doing back the next day. I say throw another one in, or bump in a cheat meal or something. Throw something else in the pile. But a missed meal to me is when you just miss one for that day.
Yeah, it's pretty individual. It does depend on whether you're in a cutting phase or not. I use myself as an example. If I train at night, right now, during the week, typically I train right around 1 or 2. On the weekends, I might train, 8 or 9 at night. If I train legs like I did last week later at night, I'm probably going to miss a meal. I'm only going to end up with 5, but I'm in a cutting phase. So the next day is a rest day. Yes, it's leg day that I'm missing a meal, but because the next day is a rest day, I'm not as concerned about being in a cutting phase. It's pretty individual, but I would say this. I don't like, and this is just my own opinion, my own preference, I don't like to double up on meals. What I will do sometimes, and this is what I recommend to my clients like Shay, but I don't know if he's asked me this question personally, so I'll give him that.
Does he work with you?
I think because there can't be too many Shays.
No.
I think he's at LSU. He's a client of mine. He's a pretty cool cat.
Okay.
But I could be wrong because there could be other Shays. But
this is true.
Anyway, what I'll do sometimes is I will then, if you miss a meal, say you miss it by a couple hours, I tend to have my clients pick up their meals. First, I tell them not to miss meals, but sometimes shit just is out of your control, and you had to run someone to the doctor or whatever. You just miss a meal. You're not prepared. Get that next meal or the one that you miss, and then try to push the other ones a little bit closer together. Instead of 2.5 or 3 hours, push them to 2.5. Basically what you have to do, and this is how I do it. I wake up in the morning, I see what time I wake up, I give myself about 30 minutes, and I schedule on my notepad on my iPhone my meal times for the day based around my training. They may fluctuate a little bit, 30 minutes, something like that. But if I were to miss something, then what I would do is let's say I'm halfway through the day, I would then try to I'm going to go to bed about this time because I have to be up at this time. So how much time do I have? And I play with the time to keep the remaining meals relatively, the increments relatively even.
Yeah.
I can say after a protein meal, because I only have protein and like a protein drink meal, and some fat, I know that I could push the next solid food meal a little bit closer because I'm probably going to be hungry quicker, things like that. There's a lot to factor in there. Does it really matter in the end? I say it does, but I can't give a black and white answer as to why, other than it's just about structure and it's just about being regimented, and it's just the structure of it all. You want to still get those meals in if you can, pushing them closer. And if you can't, you miss a meal and you get back at it the next day. I don't think that it makes the difference or means that you're going to, you're not going to be successful. Yeah, like, oh my shit, I didn't grow today, I'm in a growth phase. Or, the other problem is if you're cutting and you're deep into a cut,
mm-hmm.
you can find yourself pretty fucking hungry for the rest of the day.
It's a lot harder to miss a meal if you're hungry.
Absolutely. So in a situation like that, I would say if you're normally eating 2.5 to 3 hours, push those remaining meals for the rest of the day, get them all in and push them 2 hours apart.
Yeah.
I don't know that push them any closer than that, maybe an hour and a half, but if you get them too close, then I don't know that's all that great. It depends on the person. Again, it sucks to say that, and I know we say that a lot, and I know that people are kind of like, damn, you want black and white answers, but a lot of these questions don't have black and white answers.
All right, here's Shay's other question. Blood, sweat, and gear question. Do all animal proteins have the same value, aminos and micros? Does it make a difference? Also, besides True Nutrition protein supplement brands, what brands do you trust? So let's start with the first one.
They're all different.
Does it make
acid profiles of beef, the chicken, the fish, and everything? They're all completely different.
Does it make a difference?
What do you mean make a difference? Is
like I guess. What do you mean? The results?
Well, I mean, I think if you're putting on muscle, that beef is the best place to go, and then chicken right after it. If you're cutting,
Why?
you know, because beef digests slower and it's got a better amino acid profile than anything else.
Okay, fair enough. I was wondering why you thought that, because it's, and this will be a good one because you and I can duke this one out. I'm of the belief. I just from a, and it's always better when we have a debate or when you're debating with somebody. Man, I'm running my words together. I wanted to say
popcorn.
someone, but I said somebody, and it all ran together. Somebody. I don't think the amino acid profiles between your main complete protein sources like chicken, fish, beef, I don't think it matters at all. I think the differences are incredibly subtle. I agree with S2H if you're putting on weight. Beef is pretty damn good, but it's not because it's a better amino acid profile and it's going to create more growth. It's that it has fat in it, so it has more calories in it, which tends to, let's put it this way. If you add a little bit more fat to fish, white fish that literally has almost virtually no fat at all, you're going to essentially grow. If you add the same amount of fat to that as you would have in the same amount of beef, you're going to grow pretty much exactly the same. It's not going to be quantifiable after, say, a year. You can't be like, oh, shit, 1 year I did fish, 1 year I did beef, and oh, my God, I put on so much. If the fat content is the same.
So tuna or salmon.
What's that?
Tuna or salmon.
Yeah, there's a good example. Very good example, actually. The fat content, you would grow more because you're taking in more calories. But it doesn't have, to me, my opinion, is just that the amino acid profiles in a complete protein like that, as far as I'm concerned, and I tell this to my clients, you just consider them all the same, and that's why I allow them to mix and match, because some people struggle with chicken breasts, they fucking hate it, or they struggle with tuna fish, so they fucking hate it. I just tell them, as far as amino acid profiles, the protein itself isn't going to make or break you for getting lean and retaining muscle or building muscle in a hypertrophy phase. That's my take on it.
I think, going back to what he was asking before, because the question he asked in the last episode, it was like, is there a benefit to, I think, animal proteins over vegan sources of protein? So I think he's just trying to better understand, and I asked him, I was like, hey, well, is there a reason for this? Are you a vegetarian? Or, and he was saying he just wants to understand these proteins better. So they're just questions of education for him. What digests better, right? That's what it comes down to, is like, if you can't tolerate dairy, then it's awesome that, there are other options. Or if you're allergic to eggs, that would be a reason you couldn't use an egg protein, So I think that the key is like what you're saying, like what works for you, that's going to be, and it kind of, for me, I guess I'm tying it back to that other question we had about the stomach, what's going to bloat you, versus what doesn't. It's going to be individual. And I think over time, if you listen to yourself, then you find, what's going to be most effective for you. And whatever is most effective for you is what feels the best in your stomach and digests the best. And sometimes you got to be careful with that too, because I've also worked with people that are dieting and they're like, younger guy, maybe one guy in particular I'm thinking of, he came to me and he was like, I was eating chicken and now I'm eating beef. I just enjoy it a lot more. And I'm not talking about, of course you do. There's a lot more fat. You're trying to get lean, right. And now you're getting a lot more calories. So I'm not talking about that as much as like what settles in your stomach, I think, is a factor. So
like my wife used to eat canned tuna fish for cutting. And I'm like, hey, I'm moving out if this shit doesn't stop. Because, I mean, to me, canned tuna fish is like one of those disgusting things ever made. And, the house smells like it. It's like, this is fucking awful. And but she didn't stop. So.
But I think coming back to what you were saying too, Scott, about the, different foods sitting well with some people versus others, it's not because of the amino acid profile, though. As an example. Yeah, and that's why I just don't think that any of this really comes down to, at least what he's asking. If I'm understanding his question correctly, it doesn't come down to amino acid profile. I mean, if you don't tolerate a food well, as an example, if you don't tolerate dairy, it's pretty much because of any lactose that would be in it. Yeah. You don't tolerate beef well, it could be because of the micronutrients that you don't tolerate well, but it's not the amino acid profile itself. So, and going back to what he was saying about, the animal protein versus vegan protein, again, I still think that it's, in that sense, it is the amino acid profile, because you have complete proteins versus incomplete, or you have complete proteins that are barely complete because they are low in at least one amino acid when they're not animal proteins. But when they're animal proteins, I don't know of an animal protein where there's an amino acid that is so out of whack like there are with the vegan options.
Well, the vegans are real low in protein too sometimes. So if you look at what they're, what people are intaking in the vegan, I call them just protein shakes or whatever, they're not intaking a whole lot of protein with some of these meals. So you have to eat a lot more of it just to get even close to what animal meat would give you.
Right.
And as far as brands go, trying to think here of brands.
I know. How do we? Yeah, I can't think.
I'll give the politically correct not answer. Is you would be surprised how many brands are made by the same people.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I'll go on to say too that a lot of the and look, every year that goes by, protein powders do tend to get better and they become higher quality.
They do, yeah.
But I gotta tell you, and again, this is going to sound like this huge True Nutrition pitch, but the fact really is that when you take all but maybe 3 or 4 really good on the shelf at the store protein powders, they're going to assay very low. They've got a lot of filler in them. There are a few that are good. And you know what? I'll go on record as to say that if True Nutrition if they stopped tomorrow and they shut down and they said, excuse me, and the question was, I hate to do that, I'm sorry, but
you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
A nicotine bag here. And you said, Skip, what would you use if you could no longer use a Team Skip protein or anything from True Nutrition because they closed down? I would go with Isopure. It's the only way, but it is of products that come off the shelf, it has always been a relatively high quality, but I would never, this isn't a slam on Isopure, but I would never use Isopure over, my blend through True Nutrition. And, people could take that as me pushing. I created that blend for a specific reason. And it's that much better with True Nutrition because it assays so ridiculously high and has, every time they've done it over the years, that there's little that compares to it. The amount of filler is damn near zero. It is, I want to say it was 94 or 95%. That is off the chart. There, and I won't mention these names, but there were good ones, well-known products, not even just 6 or 7 years ago, pulled off the shelves, and they would be high 70s.
Really?
Low 80s.
We'll throw one out there, man. Like something that, is there some, and I'm not saying this like so we start bashing companies, but like, is there one that you would say like, hey, this is one that you wouldn't have thought of that you should probably stay away from?
No, because, and I'll tell you why. I don't know that they're not assaying better now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I don't want to piss them off and have them, come at me and be like, dude, why are you fucking saying that? These are our, because I don't know what they are now. And that's why over the years, protein powders and supplements themselves just do tend to get better. The quality goes up, and which is great for all of us. And as as that goes up, I don't know that have the prices gone up ridiculously high. I know that, over the last 5-7 years, prices go up a little, but I don't think they're astronomical. So you're getting a higher quality product, not paying much more than you were 5-7 years ago.
I think Syntrex always has graded pretty high.
Yeah, and
they're more expensive than most other than their ISO. But I don't know. I don't follow that. Never did follow that too closely. So
I've used Dymatize ISO 100. Mm-hmm. It's a blend of isolate and hydrosylate, and I don't know how it stacks up. Like, I haven't seen it tested, but I found that it seems to work well for me, and the flavors are good. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I mostly support True Nutrition, though. They sponsor our show too, which is fantastic. I mean, but that said, I supported True Nutrition. Like, I shopped with them well before that. You know, they've only been with us for the last year, but I've always promoted them, and they were the company I really wanted, you know, to be with us too. So I'm super grateful for that. By the way, Skip, he is your client. He says, I am Skip's client from LSU. Thanks for answering. I had not asked Skip. I didn't want to bother him with these questions, so that's why he busted him here. Good man, good client.
He's a great client. He's a low maintenance guy. He's like, I don't want to ask the guy I'm paying. I'm going to ask the guys on the show, and we'll deal with that. So no, that's cool. And let me just say too that I want to put this out there to try to, so that people understand the angle that I'm coming from when it comes to True Nutrition and stuff like this. I wouldn't use if a company sent me, and True Nutrition doesn't send me free shit, that would be awesome. But if a company sent me free shit and just said, here, whatever you want, we'll just give it to you and you can use it, and it wasn't a very good product, I would pay for the good product.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get free shit, and I wouldn't back somebody or a supplement company that I didn't think was very good. So the fact that I have been involved with True Nutrition for, probably 15 years, and their high quality that's just really what it comes back to. I have clients, it's not even just me, I have clients that I rely on them having good supplements because they represent my brand.
Yeah.
So I don't want them looking like shit. I want them using the absolute best shit they can. Now, I do tell my clients all over the world, because sometimes True Nutrition, the shipping fees to different countries can be pretty outrageous, which is no fault of True Nutrition. But I'll tell them, if you've got a high quality product that you already use, that is, that you don't have to pay to ship True Nutrition, or my blend, then that's fine, and I support that. I don't insist that my clients, you absolutely have to use True Nutrition, but I do remind them that it's incredibly high quality shit, and that would be the best route to go.
All right. Okay, I'm going to change this word. He uses the word tranny. I'm going to say transvestite because, yeah, it's funny, but you know what?
Skip will say it. Just keep going.
We have a listener who has a son that is crossed over to being a son, basically, and I got to meet him. He's a cool kid, young guy. He's on testosterone replacement. He's in Australia, and he's a cool kid, and he's had a hard time getting testosterone, which I could imagine, man. I know it's harder in Australia to get testosterone, but then for, being a younger guy, I could only imagine the hoops you have to go through. But nonetheless, though, he does have a question that is hormone related. He says, why do transvestites on testosterone have a better beard than me? If 3 years on TRT added body hair, would super physiological levels add even more? He says, I just wish I had a beard.
It's funny because I know for the longest time I couldn't grow a fucking mustache or a beard to save my ass. It didn't matter what I did. There were times where I wanted to just use mascara. You almost spit that out.
I did.
Because it was just like, I'm like, there's just nothing right here. There's nothing
pencil
right
it
here.
in.
Yeah, it took me over 40 years to get to the point. And even if I did try to grow a beard, it would look pathetic. I think some people are just hairier than others. I don't know. I mean, obviously testosterone plays into it. And this is kind of out of, speaking for myself, this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse because I don't know the hormonal differences in a situation like this. But I'm going to be presumptive, and I'm going to, thinking out loud, I'm going to say, I wonder if a woman transitioning to a male and wants to transition to a male, like they feel more like a male, so they're kind of in a male body. That's how they look at themselves.
Yeah.
I wonder if they don't already have a higher level of testosterone than an average woman anyway. And then when you add testosterone onto that, you may already have the propensity with the higher level of testosterone naturally that they could be hairier, and then you add it on top, and then they just become more hair. But I don't know. And I don't know that people with full beards have higher testosterone levels than people who don't. I've had very high testosterone levels for 25 years, a large part of 25 years, and could not grow a fucking beard, a full beard, if I, was paid $20,000 to do it. So I don't know. I've seen some very, very skinny dudes who don't weigh 150 pounds with beards that I go, wow, that's pretty cool. That'd be cool if I could do it. And there's no way that I could. So I don't know. I don't know what that connection is.
I think it's genetic, just like anything. I'll put it this way. So, female bodybuilders I've known, because I was around a lot of them for a long time, that would get facial hair from using, male exogenous hormones.
Yeah.
Generally, if you look at their family, like their dad had a really big, that was hairy, so it was still genetic, in disposition. So it's like my brother. He looks like the first one to stand upright in our family. He's like covered in hair, but I don't have that much hair like on my body like he does. But I think it's genetic like anything. So if you have a family, parents, fathers, males that are pretty hairy, it's just like losing your hair. If your dad's bald, well, there's a pretty good chance you're going to follow that same pattern as a male. But most of the females I knew that had facial hair issues, if you look at their brothers and their father and stuff, they were pretty hairy guys, guys that could grow beards pretty easy. So I think it's just genetic.
I think
would agree with that.
Part of it is like, genetics. Do you have a hair follicle there or not? You know what I mean? It's like if you don't have a hair follicle there, in kind of related. While we were talking, I was like, I wonder if Rogaine would work. I'm using Rogaine, and it's helped dramatically between Rogaine and topical. So finasteride, Propecia. I got the pills, but I'm using it topically. So, and it's working really well. I mean, I'm not going to show you my hair right now because I haven't cut it in a month plus.
Yeah.
But it's definitely working. There's a lot of it up there. But so I was wondering, could you put Rogaine on your beard? Would that help? But they were saying that it's worth a shot. But if you don't have the hair follicle there, which it sounds like he doesn't to begin with, it's not going to help him out at all. Matt Marshall says, hypothetically, someone I know, me, couldn't grow a beard until they started using growth hormone. Huh.
Oh. Huh.
I got really thick hair. I mean, on my head, like it's like we were talking about it earlier. Like it's like give me a headache thick if I don't cut it.
Yeah.
And even with taking growth for a long time, my hair never grew anymore. Now it got slicker. It got that silkier, kind of smoother feeling.
Yeah.
But I didn't find that it grew anymore, though it grew a lot anyway. So I don't know. But
Said I have two brothers with full beards in high school, but they both went bald by the time they were 20. So that's. Yeah. I'd take the full head of hair. Genetics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got them both.
All right.
I can loan y'all some hair if you need any. Packages up and send it over.
Let's see. We got George White chimed in here.
Right.
You got a cat there, Skip?
Yeah, she's. It's funny. I apparently did not close. Do you want to come up here? She'll come up here in a second. I'm sorry.
Who is it?
I know I'm being. This one's Loki, which she doesn't usually come around, but
we want to see the big cat, Skip.
Zuri, it would be very difficult to get Zuri. I could get Linus over here with no problem, but not Zuri. Zuri is not going to. Remember, I can't pick up Zuri. Melissa can, but she has to pick her up by her scruff and set her in her lap and hang on to her scruff and pet her. So she's still not to that point yet.
Okay, so George White has a bunch of questions here. We'll plot. They all look good too. UK George White, he says, method of training that has the greatest chance of success. Diet method style that is most likely to succeed with most people on a prep, and best bang for buck steroid for growth. Damn, George is killing it with these questions. We have, I think, 2 more after this, so we'll just try to spread our time out evenly as best we can. But method of training that has the greatest chance of success. I guess that means that everybody's going to, so I guess there is an answer here. Everybody's going to be different, right?
I'd say one that you enjoy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's hugely important. I mean, I don't know how many times I've told a client, if you feel, when they first come to me, if you feel like your training protocol right now is effective and you enjoy it, then we can stay with that and we can transition to a different training protocol if you feel that it gets stale or your progress slows. And the other thing is too, is I know speaking for myself, taking on new clients, it helps me to first start with the nutrition plan with the training they were using, so that I can then gauge the effectiveness of the change in the nutrition without too many variables changing all at once.
Yes.
So as an example,
Yes.
if they have the same training protocol and I start a new nutritional program and all of a sudden their progress takes off,
You know it was the nutrition.
then you know it was the nutrition.
I do the same thing.
Right. You don't have to wonder, well, maybe it was the training or whatever. So I really think that it's hugely important. And the truth really is when it comes down to what training protocol is effective, they can all be effective at some point. It's really all about not the training protocol itself, but the stimulus that you're creating that the body is not used to seeing and has to adapt to. So it's not necessarily, your body doesn't know the weight. It doesn't know, it just knows the stress and the stimulus. It's the same thing with the type of training protocol. So as long as you're providing that stimulus and you enjoy it, then that's hugely important.
I will say for me, it's changed. And I'm going to elaborate even on what you said, Skip, because listen, I trained, I mentioned Shelby earlier. I trained back every workout with Shelby for like 5 years straight. And what Shelby did, he had a fantastic back. Like back was one of his strong suits,
Oh, yeah.
Back and legs were both really wicked on him. My back is growing better now with a much different training plan. What worked for him, he pushed it to the extreme. It worked fantastic. And what we would do is we were following John Meadows' plans. John would write, training for Shelby. They worked together on that each week. And, we'd follow that to a T basically. And we would do, sometimes it was like a 2.5, 3 hour workout. And I do feel like I gained something from it. I mean, my back definitely did improve, but now I'm doing, the whole thing. Like everybody's into the push-pull legs now, and that's what I'm doing too. But it's the higher frequency, lower volume stuff that has been really helpful for me. So I get in and I kill it, and then I get back out. And every time I go in, I'm able to just training my ass off and then getting out when I'm, like when you go to train chest and you're doing like a 5-day split, I feel like those first 2 exercises, you're fucking on fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's say you do incline press and flat press. Those 2 exercises, you're killing it. But then if you do dips, followed by flies, followed by, cable flies, whatever, you're only like pumping out the high reps you're not using the same intensity as those first 2 exercises. So for me, it's getting in there, doing those 2 hard exercises, killing that with as few sets as possible, then getting out and then coming back a few days later and doing that same thing again. I found that works really good for me personally. But you know what though? It depends where you're at, right? Because if you just start, anything works. You don't need to do that.
Right.
Next one was diet method style that is most likely to succeed with most people on a prep.
Low, medium, high carb cycling.
Yeah.
I found that one to be the most successful.
Who's that?
This is Loki.
Hi, Loki.
She's the queen. Sorry, S2H. It's the way it goes.
Another victim on my hit list.
Miss Queenie.
I don't like the way Scott is looking at your cat, Skip.
Oh, shit. Yeah, it's, God, any method. There's so many different nutritional methods. I mean, we're all going to think that our approach is the best way. I do different methods than other people do, and I think that my way is pretty fucking good. Cycling carbs, yes. Some people respond better to higher fat, lower carbs. Some people respond very well to keto. I'm not a big fan of the keto type of diet and you know what, when I say keto, I want to make sure and make clear that it's not true keto. True keto to me really doesn't even belong in bodybuilding because the protein is just too low and the fat is too high. When I think in the bodybuilding industry, people tend to use the term keto and it's not very accurate. And I've been called on it before myself because I have been referring or have referred to in the past styles of dieting that I have personally used where the carbs were very minimal, if not zero carb, and called it keto when it's really truly not keto. But I use that term because people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They know it's damn near zero carb, and that's why I use the term. So I don't think it's terribly effective. And, it's kind of a funny thing, too, with a keto style approach. If you have to reload carbs at some point, and you do, I don't know if that's terribly, it's to me, it seems counterintuitive. It's like, well, you're going to leave them out, you're going to leave them out, you're going to leave them out, but you have to reload them anyway. And I also think that in situations like this, people don't understand the impact that carbohydrate has on the metabolism. Obviously, even just an increase in calories can have an impact on metabolism too. But carbohydrates are huge for the metabolism, and kind of like throwing gas on a fire. And it doesn't mean that you have to be skip loading when I say that. All I'm saying is carbs are important. I'll admit that one of the changes, and I've been doing this shit for a long time, one of the changes that I have made within the last year, maybe 9 to 12 months, is I have dropped, how do I explain this? I have gone back leaning more towards a 1980s Chris Aceto approach where carbs are but fat is lower. And I've been doing that not only with myself, but I find myself doing that with more and more clients, and I'm finding it more and more effective.
Carbs are what did you say?
That the carbs are higher, yeah, and that the fat is lower.
Gotcha.
So not ridiculously low, but I will take out fat before I will take out carbs, where in the past I may have taken them out equally.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that, and I've been having very good results with that. Like I said, not only with myself, but with a lot of clients over the last, maybe not 6 to 12 months, nice. I would say. And I think that that's more of a Chris Aceto type approach, because he is higher carb and lower fat. And that's a 1980s, early 90s methodology, really. Yeah. The higher fat intake really started to come in later, I think, in the 90s, early 2000s, probably not even in the 90s, early 2000s. So just my thoughts on it.
What do you think, Scott?
No, I mean, I said the low, medium, high carb
cycle, yeah.
But I mean, it could vary. I mean, and when I say that low, medium, high carbs, that doesn't mean the high carbs are really that high. I mean, do I have a 240-pound dude or 140? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Plus, and I say with females, I found that more of a low carb, straight across the line approach works better, especially if they're competing like figure or something like that, bikini. I mean, so it's going to depend on who you're dieting. Are we dieting a bikini competitor? Or are we dieting a super heavyweight? I found too, kind of like with people's upbringing, how they eat as they've come up, like, do they grow up on like a dairy farm or as farmers where their diet consisted of like 8 things? There wasn't a lot of or they a junk food person growing up. Sometimes that'll kind of vary with the diet too.
How about the gear situation here? What's your best bang for the buck?
Testosterone, cypionate.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. It's testosterone above everything else.
Okay, let's take that out of the equation then, just for fun. Let's say, test is going to be your base, right? No matter what. So if you're going to add something to test, and when he says bang for your buck, does he mean, he says for growth. What would you add to that to say your best bang for the buck if you're going to do test and something?
D-ball, Anadrol.
I know,
it's
right?
It's cheap, right? Bang for the buck. You're going to get a lot for not much
pretty
money.
Damn good.
If I'm forced to pick an injectable, I would go with an Nandrolone. I would go with, and I don't like it. I don't like DECA personally. I much prefer a shorter ester than that, like an NPP. But nonetheless, DECA or even EQ. If you want to keep it simple and you're going to run, another injectable on top of testosterone, EQ or DECA, you're not going to go wrong with.
Yeah, either one of those.
All right.
I would say injectables.
Do you think that there's much of a difference? I've heard some people say, like, in order to grow, you need the long esters. Some people would say that, like, the short esters aren't going to be as effective for growth. Do you think that let me ask you it this way. Is there a difference? No?
This is my eye roll.
Testosterone's testosterone. It's just the ester is different.
I guess because
I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, ester, the longer the ester, the more, the more consistent, more stable it is in blood levels.
Yeah. And it just comes down to blood levels, really.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. You may have to take more prop than you would sip, and more frequently, and some people have PIP, but it really just comes down to blood levels.
I mean, it's like the suspension days. It was like 5 times, 6 times a day. That shit gets old real quick.
And it hurt like hell, too.
Yeah, oof. It hurts like, I mean, it can be not the best. I used to stick it in my traps.
I put it in my calves one time. And when
That's
I say
not
one,
a good move.
I know I said one time because it was one fucking time.
I just say the longest ester testosterone, cypionates, enanthate, cypionate, whatever you want to use,
And they're easier. You don't have to take them as frequently. I mean, it's just practicality. It's convenience.
All right,
I mean, some of these blends that have come out are okay, but I don't know how consistent they really are. Some of these mega blends and stuff.
Well, Dave Crossland.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Dave Crossland has done, so he does stuff for the courts over in the UK. So he works as an expert witness. So if somebody, most of the time it's for a defendant, but if somebody is going to court and, one of the things there is you can own steroids as long as it's for personal use, not for, if you're selling steroids, that's illegal. But so a lot of times they want to debate whether somebody's stash is for personal use or not. So they bring Dave in and he can testify as to whether he thinks it would be, an acceptable amount or combination of drugs. Because sometimes you might have a lot, but it still could be personal use if it's all like test trend masteron. But if you have like 5 tren E and 5 tren ace and some deca and 5 EQ, then D-ball and Winstrol, then it might look more like sales anyway. So he sees a lot of the lab reports, and so this is my long story to explain that he said that it's usually in those blends that they're fake or underdosed or there's something else. Like we looked at some lab results one day and that none of these things had masteron in them at all. If it was supposed to be masteron, it was tren. If it was like a test tren masteron blend, it was test and tren. And there was no, all these blends, they were all just like test and test, not what they were supposed to be.
And that goes back to earlier we were talking about lab results and consistency. Say you're getting 200 milligrams per milliliter testosterone from a UGL, and they're kicking it up to 325, so their stuff looks great, better on the source board, so they can sell more. Well, that's going to throw your consistency way off in your labs, and you're bouncing around going, well, why am I take 200 milligrams a week of this, and now I'm taking 200 of this, and now my levels are completely different. Mm-hmm. You don't get a lot of consistency. And I swear to God, I think Pfizer testosterone cypionate is at 200 milligrams per milliliter has more, whatever you want to call it, kick or go to it than anything I've ever taken. And I've taken a lot of shit. I mean, the purity, the quality of it is a whole nother level. Now, of course, it's prescribed. You're not going to go around and find that falling off trees, but there's a big difference in the quality of it.
Do you agree with that? Do you guys both think? And I know we're running out of time here, but I'll ask you that another time because I've heard people talking about. I'll ask you another time about that, and I'll just cover the listener questions because we have a couple more here. Spot reduction of fat, non-surgical. Is there a way to actually do that, Skip?
No. Next question.
All right. What about Helios?
I just say no. I know that there's a big argument about, spot reduction, injecting in that area. I mean, I remember back on the boards where when you spot injected growth, the one guy said he had a quarter, size. That's called necrosis. I mean, it's just not. And S2H may disagree with me, but I don't believe it for 1 second. I don't agree with topical yohimbine. I think when it's topical, it does end up in the system, which means you could just take it orally and save yourself the mess and getting it on your hands and then trying to fuck later and it ends up all over your wife or your girlfriend or both at the same time. I don't know. I just think that it's not it's just not going to happen.
I'll say this. I always had like a little bit of fat in the front, and I went through many times with Helios, with carnitine, with all of them. I felt like I was getting stung by bees to begin with, and none of it worked. Now, I will say one thing. There was a guy I was working with one time, and he had like a natural dent, like right in his pec. He was in really good shape, but he had a little bit of, I'd say maybe 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch part of his pec that didn't develop right here.
Yeah.
in the center of his pec. So I got this idea. I go, hey man, why don't you start injecting like insulin pins in there to see if we can build the scar tissue up to develop that little spotness, and it worked.
Huh.
He developed enough scar tissue in there that spot got filled in by scar tissue, and took that little dent because he was conscious about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, you could try it, and it actually worked. It took a little while, but so you
Don't
can
try this
fill
at
your
home.
dents don't try this at home, but it actually worked. And but yeah, as far as the spot reduction stuff goes, I thought the stuff worked for years, and I tried it over and over, and all I got out of it was a lot of stinging little bee spots everywhere.
All right. So we have a nutrition question and a training question. Forearm training, best way. I'll rephrase that. Do you need to train your?
I was thinking it, but S2H, he came out. He
I got
came
good
out
forearms, baby.
with the visual. Yeah.
Do you need to train your forearms? I've never had to. I feel like everything else I do, my forearms grow. But have you ran into
Arm
people,
wrestlers,
Skip,
maybe.
that didn't have good forearms?
Yeah, I have. There's also the short bicep syndrome where the attachment is so high away from the elbow that I feel a gap with more brachialis and more forearm, but it's not very common. I think that my best advice typically, I've had great forearms. I've been fortunate. If everything was as lean and muscular as my calves and forearms, I'd be a pro by now, but that's not going to happen.
I'll sit here like this for the rest of the show.
Exactly. I think the easiest way to get forearm development without direct forearm work is to train back without straps or limit your strap use as much as possible. And I see people use them all the time, and I only think that they need or should be used on sets where you're actually going to fail because your grip strength isn't there. And I think that in and of itself, I mean, if you do chins and you do rows, and obviously you need straps for things like maybe for shrugs and for deads, that's a completely different situation. But if you're doing rows and you're doing chins and you have to use your straps a lot, and you're complaining about not having fully developed forearms, or you don't think they're very well developed, then there's your sign. Get rid of or start to phase out the sets that you're using the straps, and don't use them unless you absolutely have to.
That, and when you do curls, a lot of people, when they go to curl anything, especially like not with dumbbells or either one, is they'll drop their elbows back when they curl the weight up. And I can remember back, I'm going to go old school to the 80s, we had the Arnold bicep blaster, that thing you wore around your neck. And everybody had kicking forearms because you can't move your elbows back with that device. And I actually saw somebody using one not that long ago. And so when you curl, if you curl and you put your back up against the wall, you're going to have to use your forearms and biceps to curl the weight, because that blaster thing, they called it, was gold. Your elbows can't move back. Your body can't move back. And so all the concentration is on your forearms and your biceps to curl the weight. Yeah, I don't know if anybody roll up in a gym with one of those today, if you can even find one. But
they're around. Worked. They're around again, and I think they're making a resurgence. I see people using them on Instagram and stuff. Okay, we got a couple more quick ones here. Have you dealt with heartburn or acid indigestion? Any tips or tricks? This is a client of mine. He didn't tell me anything about heartburn. It's the first time hearing about it.
I used to get it bad.
He's eating a lot of food.
A little purple pill, Nexium.
Ooh, don't do that. Don't do that.
Hey, they work though.
Well, now you've got throat cancer because Nexium has been pulled off the shelves.
Oh, did?
For being carcinogenic. I don't know if it's Nexium, but it was one of them. I thought it was Nexium.
The Omeprazole, or however you say it, that one was taken off the market, and now they're saying Zantac.
Okay, maybe that's the one I was thinking.
Both of them.
I'll tell you, here's what you do, and I would give this advice to S2H as well. Quit chewing Copenhagen, because that's the first
I don't chew Copenhagen.
Oh, I thought you did. Anyway, I do.
35 years of it might have done some damage.
Exactly. Heartburn, it's a tough one, and it's always a precursor, can be a precursor to esophageal cancer. So, honestly, even I chew these Zins now, but every now and then I'll still have a rub a cope on the way to the gym or when I'm done. But by and large, I got away from the tobacco, not even because of my mouth. I wasn't as concerned about getting mouth cancer, even though you can, but because I did have, it would sometimes exacerbate heartburn. I know that that's a like an early sign. If you have heartburn for years, it is a sign that you can develop, that will develop over time into esophageal cancer, and it's not a good way to go, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So
When
I don't know
quit
how to
drinking, though, I
control it.
quit getting heartburn.
I don't know how to control it other than there are some foods. Everybody has those foods that make heartburn worse. I have too.
Yeah.
I can't do anything acidic like too much pineapple or
Oh,
orange
really?
juice.
Huh.
Yeah. Or anything tomato based. Now, and when I say tomato based, like tomato sauce from pizza, I can if I'm not going right to bed afterwards. But if I go to bed afterwards and I've just eaten pizza or I've had some pineapple or something, I will shoot out of bed in the middle of the night and I'll be doing this shit. Because what happens is when it irritates and it gets up into your throat, your body and your throat will create mucus as quickly as possible to kind of coat the lining of the not the skin, but the lining of the esophagus.
Huh.
And that's what you're trying to, and it burns. Like I can't even lay back down. I have to stay up for like 20 minutes and then I can finally go back to bed. So you have to find those foods that tend to irritate it or that you don't tolerate well and stay away from it. From that, I can't give any advice on what to take because I haven't had it bad enough that I've had to actually take something consistently. And they've pulled a couple of them off the shelf because how ironic. I mean, it's a pretty sick irony if you think about it, that you're taking something to stop heartburn because heartburn could potentially over time cause esophageal cancer. And then they find out that what you've been taking to stop that or to counter that is actually causing cancer.
Yeah.
Yikes. So
I've got a bunch of thoughts on this. Now, my stomach was jacked terribly. I think it's because I overused Bactrim antibiotic. I used it for an extended period of time for acne, prescribed from my old doctor, and it took me forever to figure out why my stomach was hurting. And over time, it's like take the pill and I'd be fine, and then it would hurt. Before you know it, I realized finally it's like I take the pill and 10 minutes later my stomach hurt. I still can't take Bactrim to this day, but it took me like 2 years to get my stomach back in order. It got to the point like I used to love coffee. I couldn't drink coffee anymore. Like even just a sip of coffee would just destroy me. I'd go into basically an attack. And once I had the stomach attack, my stomach would hurt so bad that I would be sweating. I would start sweating profusely. It became like a visceral experience. It limited me in so many ways. Just certain things, like you were saying, tomato-based stuff. Man, I'd take like one bite, or like pepper, any type of pepper would just fucking set me off. And it was so painful. And I think it tied into because I was really pushing food at the time. I worked for the pop company and I had to eat so much food just to progress and gain weight. That said, and Tanya chimed in here. I think she has some good stuff. The things that I think really helped me were digestive enzymes, probiotics. And I started using these a couple years ago consistently. And I can say that my digestion is as close to perfect as it possibly could be. There's not a single food that upsets my stomach or bothers me that I can think of in any way. All the foods that I couldn't eat before, I'm back to eating those foods again. And you know what, too? I haven't used the probiotic now as consistently as I did for a year solid. And that was huge. But I would say for Matt, because Matt chimed in again and he said, I saved my questions for here. Instead of asking me, he said it's super sporadic and it's not inhibiting food intake, just trying to be proactive. I think that for real, that digestive enzymes and probiotics are huge. So much so, I believe in one product in particular. I'm going to post the link right now because I pulled it up. This is our affiliate link to BIOPTIMIZERS because they have products like there aren't a lot of companies that I truly believe in. These guys I do. Their stuff is expensive, but you get enough of it that you can use it long term. Like I think you get like 120 of the probiotics, and they tell you to take like one with each meal or something. I've just taken 2 of them before bed, and so that lasts me a couple of months. And I'm telling you that between that and then using digestive enzymes with my heavier meals, that's made a big difference. So an issue that can happen that Tanya had mentioned too is that a lot of times if you have stomach acid, you're not producing enough stomach acid to begin with. So you get this overproduction that occurs. It's not hitting your stomach at the right time. So what you need is you need the acid in your stomach when you need it. Otherwise, if you don't have enough, then you start overproducing. So believe it or not, you can actually use a hydrochloric acid supplement, which is you're putting acid in your body. And it's so counterintuitive. But if you have stomach acid, if you take a hydrochloric acid supplement with it, it works for so many people. But the way that we look at it in our country, in our society, Western medicine, we want to block the acid, when in reality, it's a lot of times you don't have enough acid to begin with. So this is something I had to invest so much time into figuring out myself. And I can honestly say, like, I can live without the supplements at this point, and I've gone long periods without them, but I fixed my digestion, and it was like royally fucked. So I would say that definitely check those guys out. Anybody who's having stomach issues, and it's worth it. It's totally worth it. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I could probably keep adding to that, but check out. We did a podcast. We've done a few podcasts with Wade Lightheart.
What about sulfuric acid?
Yeah, get it from your battery.
Yeah, H2SO4. I can't believe I know the.
Yeah, why did you know that?
I don't know. I'm not that smart either. I don't know how I would know that. But I am kidding about the sulfuric acid. Do not ingest.
Drink your battery.
Yeah.
Matt mentions another Matt. He said apple cider vinegar works too. I found I couldn't deal with apple cider vinegar. It actually upset my stomach worse. So
yeah.
But I mean, I have heard that it does work for a lot of people.
That's a tough cookie to get down. Apple cider vinegar. That's rough.
Yeah. So anyway, there was one other question. It was kind of off topic. Maybe you guys can help with this too. He was a guy who was listening to the show and said something. Here it was. This last question. We'll make this. He says, question, being an addict, what were the best things that got you past those negative habits? And I will say, he said, could help with those trying to kick bad habits. This lockdown could be a damn good thing to rid ourselves of certain bad habits. And I can see that, man. If you were going to the bar all the time, you're not going to the bar, but then you could just drink at home, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, especially now because liquor stores are still open. I mean, that's basically an essential.
It's an essential item.
Yeah. I don't know that I can't speak to addiction, I guess, because I don't have that type of a background. I mean, at one point I quit drinking 10 years ago, but it wasn't because of an addiction. It was just because I felt like death after I drank. So I said I was going to take a break from it for a while, and that just turned into 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Now I don't have any real desire to have a drink. I have been addicted to Copenhagen for many years, and I actually came back to it. Not a very good habit, and one that, over time can kill you or rip your face off. So I guess maybe in that sense I do, but outside of that, I haven't had a drug or alcohol addiction outside of gear. No, I'm trying to add some levity here. But I can't really think of anything. I know S2H, you don't have do you have yeah, you do. You were an alcoholic, right?
Gee, thanks, Skip. Yeah. No, I mean, I had a bad, I danced with the devil for years on many things. But I think the thing and when I literally say I quit drinking, I quit like cold turkey.
Yeah.
Like, I went from drinking a fifth a night to cold turkey. And I think the thing is you just got to make up your mind.
Did you get DTs from that?
No, I didn't actually. So I have my whole family's alcoholics. I mean, I just quit. And I think the mind's the strongest thing. If you're not going to quit something if you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're only half in the game, if you're only like saying, "Oh, I want to quit because I need to quit," you have to make up your own mind. And that was for me. I didn't go to any kind of like special you know, or people thought I should have. You know, I was like, hey, I'll quit. And I just made up my mind one day, hey, I'm gonna quit, and I quit. Oh, it sucked for a while. Let me tell you. You know, you're like driving by the liquor store on the way home. You're like,
is that when you got into
breaks.
training?
No. I was way into it. I always drank a lot.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, it just. I mean, I would quit at times. Like the few times I competed, I quit. But it was tough. I mean, it's like your mind's always on it. You always want to go. You know, it's your own little. And I'll be honest, I drank at home alone most of the time. And there was the party days, but those got old. But yeah, I just quit. I said, hey, this shit's just not. I think some of it too is my son was pretty young at that age. He was probably, I don't know, probably 5 or 6. So it was more than 10 years ago. And I just said, hey, I don't want to set a bad example for him, and I just quit. Now I got some encouragement to quit, of course, you know, but.
Yeah, there has to be typically something replaces. If you give up one thing, you almost have to replace it with something else. And I've heard that, and then I've seen it play out. I think in your situation, it sounds like you just came to the realization that it could potentially negatively impact either you as a parent or your son in some way, either indirectly or directly. So I don't know, you know, when I quit chewing years ago and would quit for 14 years, I ended up using coffee because it was something that I wanted to get up in the morning and have. And once my day would start, I didn't think about it as much. But when I got up, that was my biggest problem. Like, I want to rub a Cope or Kodiak. So when I was able to get caffeine and get a little bit of a start or a pep from that kind of helped take care. And it was funny because when I went back to chewing, I don't drink coffee anymore. So it's just kind of an odd relationship there. And I know, Scott, you've had some issues. Did you start training? You started training, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, so like, you know, and I never really have said this on the shows, but, you know, I've talked about, you know, that I'm a recovering addict, but for me, like my addiction, my active use was something like I used in high school. And then by the time I was like 17, I quit. And then I went back at like 18, 19. Yeah, that was like an on and off thing. But it was really like I went through some phases of like really hitting it hard. Like for me, getting clean the first time, I didn't do any kind of recovery. I did go to rehab. And that's when I was like 19 years old. And it was bad. Like I was probably going to die within the next year bad. But it was a short burst, and so I'd go through these short bursts, you know, and then it, you know, I stayed away from drugs for a long time and would kind of dabble with drinking, but I was still. Here's the thing: is that, you know, eventually I got into recovery, and before that, a couple of years before I got into recovery, I went to rehab again a second time, and I started training, started lifting weights then. But I didn't change anything about myself. I just decided like, I'm just going to stop doing this. But there were a lot of things about just like the way I lived my life, the way I understood things that I didn't have the tools to live a successful life, I guess. So, you know, my life would then spiral out of control because I didn't hold it together. I wasn't responsible. And then I would put myself in a position where it seemed like a good idea to go out and use drugs again. So it wasn't until like I got into training then. And when I got out of rehab, I wasn't in recovery yet. My mindset hadn't changed, but I started training. And I trained for the next couple of years seriously, and I wanted to compete, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't hold my life together long enough to make that happen. Then I got in recovery and I stopped training. I stopped training for almost the first whole year. And I thought to myself, like, I'm just going to lose all this muscle and I'm going to get skinny. And it took a long time. I was surprised how long it took to really lose that muscle. And I wasn't eating like I just ate whatever I wanted, you know, and I got really involved with a 12-step program, and I got really committed to that. And the reason I did that was because like some of the things, I'm going to give you an example. Like this is maybe an aha moment for me, and it might not be a big deal to anybody else who's like already a responsible human being. But I took my my registration, and I put it with my car insurance, and I put it in a Ziploc bag, and I put that in my glove box. Because before that shit was floating around everywhere, you know, and I might get pulled over, and just hope that I could find it. And if I couldn't find it, then they're going to write me a ticket, and now I have to go back down to the police station and show that to them within 2 weeks, and still pay $200, and it basically, it would fuck my life up. All I had to do from the beginning was just put that in a bag and put it in a place where I could find it. So for me, recovery was first about learning to do just things that are simple like that, so that I didn't set myself up for a failure, you know. And then from there, you know, what ended up happening was after I did get into recovery and I didn't train for almost a year, then I started getting back into training. And I can't say that I replaced drugs with training, but I'd say I replaced photography with training, because I was avid into photography. I did that for my living. I went to school for it. And that was my main focus. Everything I did, my life was, you know, encompassed with photography. But now, to me, getting into recovery was a big thing, because I found more balance. And it's not that I am living a balanced life. I mean, bodybuilding is my all, you know. I'm talking to you guys well into the night about it. I'm going to be working with clients when we're done talking about it. I'll be editing shows about it. That's all I do, you know. But I have more of a, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think of how to say it, but I guess it's
just one less thing that occupies your life. Because like drinking, so for me, it was like, you know, every day I'll admit, like, people would say, like, to me, like, hey, we're going to have something going on until like 8 o'clock at night, but there weren't no booze there. So I was like, shit, I don't want to go to that, you know? So you kind of like drive your whole life around and stuff like that.
Yeah. And for me, it was only periods of time though, you know. For me, like, I'd go off the handle, and then for the next 6 months, I'd spiral out of control, lose, you know, spend all the money I had saved, ruin my life, destroy my relationships. Basically, like, it was kind of like very self-destructive is what it would be.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah.
And I know better than to do that now. Now I just think those things through. I think about the big picture. I look at the things that are important to me. And you know what? I try to not be so selfish, because I feel like for me, addiction, the root of it was just being a fucking asshole, you know, being a selfish asshole that only cared about what I wanted is what it really came down to. So I try to live my life, actually getting a little emotional here. I try to live my life giving back. And that's the reason that I want to do this program we're on right now. You know what? I look up to you guys both immensely. And before I knew you guys personally, I listened to you on a podcast, and I learned so much from that show. And I am so grateful that I can be in a position now to help you, Skip, to spread your message, which I think is fantastic. And I to also I feel like I'm helping you, and then I'm helping the people that are listening. And I feel like, and that's not to make me sound like I'm some sort of like, you know, great person who's helping all these people, but realistically, I'm doing that for selfish purposes. I want to help other people because it helps me to not be that selfish asshole that would think that using drugs was a good fucking idea, you know?
Well, and I think too, I mean, is it safe to say you probably get some sense of satisfaction out of the fact, though, that you're doing something good?
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to not doing anything. And, you know, going back to the self-sabotage, I mean, at some point, I don't want to get too into this because I'm not a psychologist or a therapist or anything else, but my best guess is really that you were sabotaging yourself because you didn't feel like you were worthy of the things that you were beginning to accomplish, or it became so overwhelming that you're like, fuck this shit, and you end up fucking yourself. That way you fail on your own terms instead of failing on by someone else's terms.
And so, I was afraid of life, you know? And yes, you're absolutely right, dude. I was going with drugs. My end game was basically to take myself out so that I could do it on my own terms. I was so terrified of living, you know. That's really what it came down to. So that's, I guess, the thing that I've changed mostly. So for me, I guess my point is, it wasn't like the drugs to me were just a symptom of my method of behaving. And so it was really changing those things that has allowed me to put together, like over a decade now, 12 going on 13 years, you know, without using drugs. So, it's still work in progress for me too, though. But I think
for me, I could care less now about drinking, and that's been that way for a while. I mean, the first couple of years, I had to be real selective about where I went, who I hung around with sometimes, what environments I put myself into.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of temptation, but there was just came to a point it was like I could care less,
Yeah.
about drinking, and you could set a bottle of my favorite old booze in front of me right now, and it would sit in the closet forever.
Well, we watched this
I just don't
TV
really
show.
care.
Yeah, I can relate. We watched this TV show called Key House. If you guys haven't seen it, it's really interesting on Netflix. Good show. This woman, she was really stressed out, and after a bunch of years clean, she relapsed and picked up some alcohol and drank. And Victoria said, "Does that bother you to see people relapse like that?" And honestly, I was like, "No, I hadn't thought of it." But to me, that was irritating because I felt like that is the last thing that if somebody really had, it was irritating. I felt like it was poor writing because I feel like if you really had several years clean and that you're working a program, then it's the last, I can tell you in my own life, it's the last thing on my mind. I know that I've reprogrammed myself. I know not even reprogram. I'm just looking at the bigger picture. I know that will ruin everything, That's the last thing that I would want to do, so. But I agree, at first, Scott, I was like what you're talking about, man, at the very beginning that, because that's what we're used to doing. You're used to coping with like a substance, and just because you stop using that substance doesn't mean that you know how to cope without it. And so it took time to figure that out. And that's what I mean by that still being a work in progress is I'm still trying to learn, and the big part is like accountability too. Like I fucked up today, guys. It was supposed to be tomorrow that we recorded. I told Scott the wrong day. I fucked up, but I can own that. And if the show didn't happen, I could own that too. But I'm super grateful that it did.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for people that haven't had issues with addiction, no matter what it is, to really grasp the totality of it. I've worked with some veterans that have had problems, and I'd say not all of them. Well, the military is not a great environment for being sober to begin with. But, in the last 20 years, there's been so much going on, and guys have seen things that you just can't unforget. We've all, I've seen them too. And people would say to me, well, did that make you start drinking more? I'm like, no, I was drinking a lot before that. So not everyone's in the same boat. You know what I mean? Because, I was pounding booze way back before negative things happened to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of guys, their problems, they think it starts with this traumatic event. But really, if you look at their history prior to that, there was a lot of it going on to begin with. And it's like, you have to be able to make up. Everybody handles it. I mean, it's a different wheel for a lot of people, and a lot of the prescription pain medication addiction. A lot of these guys were having from injuries and stuff. Some of it was known, some of it was unknown. Where they were being prescribed stuff for really bad injuries, and then all of a sudden the injuries get better, but they didn't realize that these Loratabs or Narcos or whatever, oxys, had taken such a hold of them. And some guys, I think, being blind to it, like not knowing that these like these withdrawals and all the negative that comes with that kind of stuff, some people work through it a lot faster and easier than others. Mm-hmm. And that's probably, if you look at those guys, the ones that got hooked on pain medication because of a really traumatic injury, an amputation, whatever, they tend to kind of sometimes be able to work through it at the end if no one tells them they're going to have negative, don't even tell them they're going to have withdrawals. Yeah. And sometimes they're able to work through that better. But if you look at their history prior to some of those injuries and stuff, if they were heavy drinkers, if they were already doing stuff that was addictive, or they have addictive type personality, then that becomes more difficult. And some of the guys are able just to get away from it like that, because they're like, oh shit, I don't feel like having the flu and feeling like death for 3 days, or whatever. Yeah. And they'll work through it. So it's kind of a strong will too, their mind.
Yeah. Well, I hope that helps. And I heard from one of our listeners, he's a police officer in the area here. He said overall crime is lower right now. On a related note. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should just keep everyone at home.
Stop crime. All right. Well, I guess that's it, guys. If you haven't already gone over to teamskip.com, you should check it out. And Skip, let's I'm gonna guys, go to the show notes on the YouTube description. I'm going to give you a link to Skip's latest article over at Elite FTS. And if you want some good, fun entertainment, you can go over there and check out Skip. Actually, I'll just put up a link to, you have a link to all your articles, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's put that link up. So, guys, check that out if you haven't. Of course, check out our sponsor, TrueNutrition.com. We've got a link in the description for that as well. We mentioned BioPtimizers. We have a show, what is it, like a show URL that you can go to check out their products. And if you have any questions about any of that stuff in True Nutrition, or if you would like my opinion on Skip's coaching, you can DM me personally. I'll tell you all about it. All right, for another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill and S2H. Guys, thanks for joining us this post-Easter episode. We'll see you soon.